Hello, welcome to Encore, your daily dose of arts and culture here on France 24. On the show today, the king of kitsch hits France. We check out Jeff Koons' major retrospective as it opens at Paris's famed Pompidou Centre, and tell you why he's the controversial star of the contemporary art world. Plus, a truly transatlantic collaboration. Broadway-bound musical An American in Paris gets its stage debut here in the French capital. We take you on a behind-the-scenes tour of this real-life Franco-American love affair. And a new chapter in New York's literary love affair. We check out the Big Apple's newly opened and only French bookstore. First, he's the highest-selling artist alive, likened to pop art icon Andy Warhol for blurring the lines between the banal and the highbrow. Now, the king of kitsch, Jeff Koons, has come to Paris with a retrospective of his work running at the Pompidou Centre until April. The American artist is hoping the exhibition, which spans 35 years of his work, will be a chance to connect with a wider French audience. But as Lauren Bersecher explains, the retrospective shows why Koons is as controversial as he is influential.
Wearing a suit and a tie, he looks more like a businessman than a visionary sculptor. But Jeff Koons is currently the world's most successful artist. He draws his inspiration from popular culture. His universe, made of flashy colors and stainless steel, is a reflection of his American childhood.
I was part of the television generation, so I would watch Popeye a lot in the mornings. You know, tattoos weren't so popular then.
But there is nothing childish about his price tags.
Fair warning then, at 4 million, 5 million. Thank you, sir.
In 1999, his sculpture of a golden Michael Jackson holding a monkey is auctioned for over $5 million. For Koons, money and art are like two sides of the same coin.
A lot of times people get focused on the money, and that a lot of money has been coming into the art world and people are collecting art, and that's fantastic. It's wonderful for all forms of creativity. But the real value of art is its life-changing abilities.
This pink balloon dog is worth $58 million, his most expensive work yet. To maintain his supply, Koons hired the best craftsmen in the world to work in his Californian factory and in his art studio in New York. But controversy is never far from success. Koons has been hailed as a genius, the one true heir to pop art. But for some others, he's just an imposter, a businessman who found a very lucrative market in selling luxury art.
Well, talking of Americas in Paris, that segues rather nicely to our next story. More than 60 years after Gene Kelly dazzled on screen as an American soldier trying to woo a French girl in the film An American in Paris, producers from both countries have united to bring a new version of the romance to theatres. The stage version of the 1951 musical is making its world premiere in Paris before hitting Broadway next year. We sent our Alex Turnbull along to find out more about this truly transatlantic collaboration.
It's the end of World War II. A young GI sets foot in Paris for the very first time to the music of George Gershwin. The MGM musical is back with the first ever stage adaptation of Vincente Minnelli's masterpiece. Rehearsals took place in New York, just off Broadway, with an all-American cast, except for the lead female character and the choreographer, both British.
The knees and the pelvis go, yeah?
What we hope is that we make a production that feels new and of today and exciting and fresh, but that also pays homage and is respectful of the original.
I got rhythm. I got music.
At the time the movie was released, Gene Kelly was at the height of his career and had become a household name. His successor on stage admits he can't compete.
I don't feel any pressure because there's no way you can live up to that guy. Gene Kelly's the reason why I started dancing. He's the reason why I knew I wanted to be a dancer professionally.
The New York City Ballet lead dancer brings his own personal touch. Royal Ballet First artist Leanne Cope and himself have the chemistry and stage presence it takes to revive the glamorous couple.
I just feel ultimately privileged, and if I can just be even a fraction of how magical she was in the film, if I can bring even an essence of that, I'll be very happy.
The show's creators picked some of Gershwin's most memorable music with the blessing of the composer's family. The conductor and his musicians are all French, and so are the costume designers. Over 300 handmade garments were created from scratch. The producers signed off on a €10 million budget, enough to breathe life in a project they designed as a new show rather than a remake of the Hollywood classic.
The idea was to produce a fresh and magical show here in Paris and later on Broadway. We wanted to celebrate the movie without literally copying it.
The cast will stay in Paris until after Christmas for 39 performances before hitting Broadway next February.
Well, there's another French export that's also just hit the Big Apple, as the biggest biannual international French summit takes place in Senegal. For the first time in years, New Yorkers are also able to get their Francais fix. Shocked at the lack of French bookstores in the city, diplomat Antonin Baudry decided it was time to turn a new page. We sent our bookworms Jessica Lemissurier and Emmanuel St. Martin along.
A crisp autumn day in Central Park. New York's literature lovers now have a new haunt. The city's only French bookstore has just opened across the street on Fifth Avenue. The Albertine is the brainchild of French diplomat Antonin Baudry. He named it after Marcel Proust's muse.
Albertine is the main female character of a book I love. And in this book, she is the emblem of the person that you never get to know. And I think it's a good metaphor for a bookshop.
Antonin hopes his non-profit venture will seduce New Yorkers into falling in love with French literature.
Et comparant la médiocrité des plaisirs que me donnait Albertine à la richesse des désirs qu'elle me privait de réaliser, je m'étais trouvé subtil. J'avais conclu que je ne voulais plus la voir et que je ne l'aimais plus.
New York's last French bookstore, which was in the Rockefeller Center, closed 5 years ago. French teacher Diane Paravazian is delighted that the Albertine has now opened. She's found plenty of exciting books today, including one on Renaissance writer Michel de Montaigne.
On trouverait un peu partout dans les essais des propos sur l'instabilité, la mobilité des choses de ce monde et sur l'impuissance de l'homme à connaître. C'est parfait pour nos jours, hein?
The Albertine is designed in the style of a private library. It stocks 14,000 books, including first editions, and it has a children's section.
Si on veut un livre en français qu'on veut lire, on peut le prendre et on n'est pas obligé d'attendre qu'il arrive de France.
Here you can just sit and read if you like. The focus is not commercial, it's cultural.
France has a great deal to teach us all, and it's a wonderful place. It's very beautiful, and it's also a reminder that books are and should be objects of beauty as well as fascinating adventures.
The Albertine has already hosted the first of its literary festivals. Antonin has even bigger plans. He's working on opening French reading corners in bookstores across the United States.
Now, around the world, graffiti is often looked at by authorities as vandalism. But in Gaza, the local government not only tolerates it, but encourages street art. The walls that surround the Gaza Strip are covered in paint, brightly coloured slogans, political portraits and prose. For youths in the besieged enclave, graffiti is an important tool for self-expression.
Painting a message for freedom on a wall in Gaza. 25-year-old Naim grew up in the Palestinian enclave and discovered graffiti through social media. He and his friends learned the technique by watching videos posted online by Western artists and brought it to the streets of the isolated territory.
The Israelis oppress us and fight us, so I decided to use graffiti to talk about what's happening in our society.
Graffiti isn't completely foreign here. All over the Gaza Strip, walls are covered in writing and drawings, from political portraits to messages of peace or stories about war. This tradition dates back to the First Intifada, the Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation in 1987. Back then, young fighters used to graffiti the dates of strikes and names of martyrs.
Writing on the wall was the simplest way to reach people, without putting yourself in too much danger. Handing out pamphlets required a lot of time and effort from militants. What was written on the walls stayed there and could be read by people who walked past.
Ever since, walls have become a sort of communal message board.
We often paint in places that welcome children, to make their environment nicer. Especially now, because we're coming out of a war, we want them to always have something beautiful in front of their eyes.
In Shejaia, paintings bear the scars of the latest Israeli offensive. This was one of the worst-hit neighborhoods during the summer's 50-day war, in which more than 2,000 Palestinians were killed.
Well, that just about brings us to the end of today's show. Just before we go, though, we've got time to tell you about one last exhibition here in France at the Museum Museum in Marseille. The gallery is showing over 100 colour photographs taken by French photographer and film director Raymond Depardon, many of them shot in Marseille itself and previously unseen. We're going to leave you with those images. Enjoy, and don't forget you can get more culture news on our website, Twitter and Facebook. Until next time.